Hi everyone! Welcome back to our bi-weekly panel series with Intercollegiate Game Night. We're back after a hiatus with a refreshing rebrand. Like, look at this, it's so cool. And on behalf of the rest of the ICGN team, I'd like to announce that our panel series will be returning. Kicking this off will be a catch-up and recap with some absolutely lovely guests with familiar faces. My name is Kai. I'm the internal executive here, and I will be your moderator for today. To start off, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your organization and how you guys got involved in collegiate esports?
All right.
All right.
I can go next. So my name is Alex Barnett. I am the external executive at ICGN. I'm also the director of marketing and partnerships at Champlain College Esports. For me, I got started basically, I wanted to get involved at college, and I like gaming, so I figured esports would be a good place to start. I started off by getting food and drinks for one of our large events, and from there worked to gain partnerships and sponsorships from different organizations in the game industry to make our players and our staff's lives a little bit better for our organization. And at ICGN, I continue that work and I do partnerships and sponsorships and external relations for Intercollegiate Game Network.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Hoang. I do product and Scholastic Partnerships at Twitch. I got my background is at the University of Washington, and I was an analyst at TSM for a period of time back in the day when I was good at video games. But right now I build stuff I wish I had in school. Thank you guys for having me here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. All right, so today we're going to be talking a lot about what collegiate world has kind of been up to since we're all kind of thrown into the chaos that is now the new normal of COVID-19. So just kind of starting off with a little bit of a question. How have you guys been managing the impacts of COVID-19 personally? What would you say has changed the most? Oh, Testing, can you hear me okay? Yeah, checking again. This is working? All right, awesome. Sorry about that. All right, so I was going to say this panel is going to be a bit of a recap of the past 6 months since we were all kind of had our lives changed to this new normal because of COVID-19. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what we're trying to do to make the future brighter, I guess. And so to start off with a little bit of a check-in, how have you guys been managing the impacts of COVID-19 personally? And what would you say has changed the most?
Personally, it didn't change much for me, but we did have to kind of postpone a lot of stuff we were wanting to do.
I guess my life changed a lot. Personally, I've traveled about 150 days a year, and so having to redo work from home was challenging. Not being able to see people, all those things, and I think these tentpole gaming esports events are like what makes the community so awesome. So I do miss those, and also miss seeing like we're through these like events, like we have to see people that we don't usually get to see, and so it's it's a bit rough. But right now I've just been hanging in there and just kind of taking breaks as we can, and just started. I know I started streaming lately too the last 6 months, so it's been definitely didn't think I would be here if you asked me that. So it's been
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
It's been different.
Yeah, I noticed, and I've been talking to a lot of people as well about how we kind of miss events because those are the sometimes, or a lot of the time, the only opportunity that you get to see other people. And I know that Kevin, your stream has been doing really, really well for the past couple of months. So props to you on that. What about you, Alex?
So for me as a student, it's been a little bit weird to come back to school. That's been, I think, my biggest change personally. Has just been most of my classes are online. All of our esports events are online. But for me, it was a little bit different because, we got some new opportunities as well. So, this summer, we don't normally do all these online events for the incoming class, but we were able to do biweekly game nights for the incoming class this year, which was really cool. And that was something new that came out of this. And I think probably the biggest change that came out of the pandemic was that for me, ICGN was created. And since then, I've been able to step into the role of external executive and work with some incredible people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, including you, Kai. So yeah, no, it's been, I think that's been probably like, I don't want to say like, this has been a great situation in terms of the pandemic, but looking on the bright side, this is definitely one of the best things that's come out of it for me.
Yeah, I think that although like the pandemic has obviously affected like the world super negatively, I think that it's been really like heartwarming to see that a lot of people are trying to make the best of it, and with things like ICGN and with things like Dylan's Uconnect Rising and whatnot, we get to still try to maintain those connections, albeit in like a bit of a different way. And speaking of Uconnect, question for all of you guys: how has all of this affected your regular workflow and how your organization would run? And especially for Alex, since ICGN was created as an initial one-night event as a response to COVID-19, what did we have to do differently compared to a regular event?
Yeah, so I guess I can start with that one. I think for me, one of the easier things, one of the things that like is the biggest difference between what we did and in the beginning and what we continue to do for our large events, and this might sound like silly, but it's also the fact that like you don't have to worry about food and drinks for however many people. The first event that I worked on, I had to get food and drinks for 200 plus people. So working on these online events, it kind of takes that whole factor out of it, which is kind of nice. I mean, I like food, but like, it's kind of nice you don't have to worry about getting all of that taken care of. And it's also nice because you don't have to have all the prizing in one place beforehand. You can kind of have it shipped out afterwards, which is extremely nice as well. So those kind of make it easier, but it's definitely, it's definitely weird to have these online events rather than in person, because it's so nice to be able to like interact with people in person, see people, like hang out with people, and it is a different feel. But I don't know, I can speak from like what ICGN has done, and I think we've done a really cool job just being able to take advantage of the situation and being able to add in these really cool panels where instead of having to bring people to a campus to do an event or a panel, now we can do all of our events online, and it gives access to so many more people who wouldn't have access to either be able to come speak at a college for a panel, or in a larger sense, like come to a convention. Like PAX Online just happened, and not everyone's able to go to PAX every year, but everyone was able to attend PAX Online as long as you had internet. So I thought like really the accessibility has been just like, I think the key thing for me, which I think is a good thing that we've gained out of doing these online events.
Yeah, I think like I said, it hasn't changed my like day-to-day work too much, but it's definitely like lowered the client acquisition costs, because usually like when we talk to brands and stuff like that, it's like the year is basically split up into like marketing beats where like oh like let's all meet up let's actually like seal the deal at like TwitchCon, or are you going to be at PAX West or stuff like that, it's like segmented off so that like there's a certain month or a certain time when you go after clients. But now like because no one's going to conventions anymore, I think that's become more flat and open, so you can talk to people and they're more open to meeting like just online and getting those deals through just like at any point. So I think that's mainly what's changed. And obviously I don't have to pay for plane tickets anymore to fly out to PAX to go meet somebody. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, kind of going off of what Kevin was talking about with conventions and stuff. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And I think that like Alex and you guys mentioned, it has been really nice. And I think that all of this has kind of opened up this whole new world of what is accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helped, I know, like not just for esports, but for a lot of people who previously had issues or difficulty, going into a workspace to do their job. Now work from home has opened up a lot of options for these people that wouldn't have had access otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about you, Kevin? I know that you've started your stream series, which has been really awesome and really insightful and really helpful to people interested in or already involved in esports to hear and talk about. But how have things changed for you on that, like more business and work end?
Business wise, it's I think because being at Twitch, it was definitely we I would say we grew from everyone being at home because everyone's playing video games. Therefore, it's normal that Twitch grows too. So I think we were fine there on the business side. A lot of people, it was very hard to find a key light on when I was starting up this stream. Like couldn't find an Elgato key light for forever. It took me a while to buy one. So it was interesting seeing all these people kind of pursue these other hobbies that they wouldn't have otherwise. Um, then on my stream wise, it's been a lot of fun. Really, it's more or less like a way for me to talk to more people too. Like again, meet what Anthony was saying was like I was able to meet people I wouldn't have met through the stream, and so that kind of it was also a creative thing for me. It wasn't like I did this just for fun and just decided to learn more about people in the scene that I wouldn't have otherwise. Like, because if I'm traveling 150 days a year, I'm limited to how many people I talk to, even though I've talked to a lot of people, but I wouldn't be able to have the access, like what Anthony was saying, of like creating a online environment where I just meet people on my Discord and stuff like that. So being able to do it myself, I feel like I'm like starting a gaming club again back when I was in school. So it's like this grassroots thing. So yeah, it's been fun booking a lot of guests. And yeah, just it's cool to and reconnect with people that way.
Yeah.
And I think
What
something
sort
that
of
something
yeah,
to add to
no,
that
keep
is
going.
I think a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of well, a lot of students may not know this, but the majority of like big deals and stuff, they happen to hotels like during PAX or during like GDC and stuff like that. So I think like just because like that's not like, especially GDC, like everything happens at the, I forgot the exact, like it's usually like the Marriott or the Hyatt or whatever. But because that's not happening, like that, I'm just like adding on to the whole like everybody going online, especially like LinkedIn is starting to blow up as well. There's like a whole community of collegiate people like making deals on there as well. But yeah, that was just a small thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting and honestly quite uh motivating to see this sort of move to online be not that difficult of a transition for a lot of things, especially because I guess we are fortunate that we are esports, so most of what we do is for the most part
Yeah, it's
online.
already yeah, we might as well do
Yeah.
it for it was easy to integrate and adapt. So
Hmm.
Yeah, which I think that we are so fortunate and lucky to have.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Next question. What sort of positive moments have been a sort of, I guess, light for the esports industry in the past little while, in your guys' opinion?
Positive moments in esports through this quarantine. Was that the question? It's a good question.
Throughout, I guess, like from maybe mid-March until now, which is wow, we're almost at the end of
Okay,
September.
all those publishers are saving this year with like awesome game announcements. So I'm gonna give that to all the dope games that are coming out in 2020. I would say Animal Crossing being the first wave of that, and then Valorant releasing early-ish. Yeah, I think that's been hype.
I think we've definitely seen an increase in non-endemic brands, just because a lot of advertisers, they usually work through like football games or like those traditional like sports marketing brands. They typically go through like live billboard advertisements, and that's like a lot of like big dollars. And now that that's not happening, I think that's freed up a lot of people's budgets, like not in too much of a good way, but like just like, hey, we really need to spend on this because we need to get like a certain product out there, right? And a lot of that has gone digital, it's gone esports. We see a lot more brands that are willing to take a chance on Collegiate. Obviously Collegiate isn't fully developed yet, but it's definitely, I think it's been a good time to see like non-endemic brands kind of at least putting their foot in the door with Collegiate, and then hopefully after COVID they continue that on like some smaller scale, but you'll see a lot of like relocation of those budgets back into sports. And I think it's also like weirdly gonna, like, I think this is an expectations thing, but I think after COVID, so like this year has seen like you've seen like a record number of people taking gap years, right? So after COVID, we're gonna see like, whereas like this year was like a trough, we're gonna see a spike like we've never seen before in terms of like collegiate events and like collegiate like incoming freshmen and people coming back to school, and that's gonna like create a ton of brand value and create a ton of I guess engagement with the esports space. But I think that's going to be an interesting like trend to see like how the market reacts after COVID. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, as someone like right now in the trenches, like literally trying to run this collegiate org during this whole time, like specifically about Champlain College Esports, we've seen a lot more, I think, advocacy and recognition from the school right now, which has been really cool because we're kind of looking at the fact that all of these things that they normally advertise and that they'd push aren't there as much anymore. But through this all, esports has been like that sort of thing that's been able to continue, where again, they had to shut down their summer open house and a lot of the things they probably do for admitted students. But instead of that, they came to esports, and I worked with the school, and we were able to create bi-weekly game nights, and we gave away prizing. And so it's really been this thing where I think the schools, and I've seen this at other schools as well, have started to realize really just how much value is in these esports spaces now more than ever. And I think that that's something that's good that's coming out of it.
Yeah, and I think it's also forced schools and organizations to kind of diversify their esports properties. Typically it's only been like live events. Online tournaments were really popular in the beginning, like back in like 2011 or whatever, but now it's like the things that you mainly pay attention to are like live events and big lands and stuff. I think with this, it's forced people to be like, hey, we need to build up like our online community, our online events, and that just increases the whole market size of like the value of collegiate. So I think like now that part has been forced to develop, you have like a bigger like valuation of the esports scene on colleges. So that's a better sell for brands when they want to like sponsor an esports arena or sponsor an organization or sponsor a school. That way you have like, hey, we have these online events, these panels, these big lands, this arena, all that stuff, and that creates like a bigger dollar sign. Because if you come up to a school with like, hey, we just have live events or blah blah blah, it's not even worth their time like through administration to go through the process of like sponsoring it. So yeah, just like making the market big enough that it's something that's worthwhile.
Yeah. I think that it has been really nice to see like administration pay more attention, because like normal sports really can't happen right now. And so a lot more organizations and companies are noticing esports because we're still around, we're still here. And so Are any of you seeing a sort of drastic change in how individual schools are running their collegiate programs? I know that Alex, you mentioned how we can't just have only like live events and big lands anymore. We have to kind of do things differently. So what kind of changes have you guys seen there?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're just really trying to focus on how we can do online events effectively and try to transition our events over there. So, like I said, we did a lot of the incoming class events, and I fully anticipate to continue with those for the next incoming class of 2025, which is weird to think about. And then so we're going to continue to do that, and then we're going to kind of transition our what would normally be like our in-person LAN events, really just trying to transition them into our Discord and do those game nights for the larger community. So it's instead of, okay, everyone come to this room in this building and bring your computers and we're going to have Beat Saber, it's okay, maybe we'll do a Jackbox night or we'll do game specific nights. That'll make it a little bit easier. And then, you know, we have our big event every November, which is our like 200 plus person charity event for the local children's hospital. And right now I'm in the middle of kind of trying to figure out how do we transition an event that's built around everyone coming together for 24 hours, playing together, like right next to each other in close quarters on the same TV, on the same consoles, sitting on a huge amount of yoga bows that we got a few years ago from Yoga Bow. Like, how can we transition that community event with buffet style food to online on a Discord? And so for me, that's like, okay, we're really just taking the time to really look at the biggest elements of each event that we put on and the ones that everyone loves and figuring out how we can move those to an online event. And I think, I mean, we're just taking it like one step at a time. And that's, I think, the easiest way to go about it.
Yeah, I think it's also like it's creating more accessibility in terms of like because you typically like these panels and these meetups never they only happened at conventions. So like if you could afford to fly out to Seattle or something, if you could afford to like go to a TESPA meetup or go to like a Uconnect like panel or something, you know, that's usually how you made those connections and how you like met those brands, met other collegiate leaders. But since everything's online now, which I've never seen like an online panel for collegiate until like around now. I guess it's created a more egalitarian system where like anybody can like come in and like meet people and anyone can like kind of like learn from these panels or whatever. And it's a lot of these brands are building up more and more of that infrastructure to kind of I guess give that kind of accessibility. But yeah.
Kevin?
Oh, what was? It's been a while since I remember the question. Can you
All
restate
good.
it? Sorry.
Are you kind of
Okay.
seeing a change with Twitch student and whatnot with how individual schools are running their collegiate programs?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen both sides of the spectrum at this point. I've seen uh schools kind of take a pause on a lot of things. I've seen schools what just happened? Oh, I've seen schools take a pause on a lot of things, but I've also seen schools they've kind of not only does the
Sorry.
gaming esports
I had to go
department,
get something.
it's all good. So gaming esports programs right now are kind of like the digital mediators of the school, even where like they're the ones that are figuring out how to take the school online, which is pretty crazy. Um, because they're not. That's not what I mean. That's we can do. I think schools can do that, but it's just kind of like the responsibility just kind of fell into the hands of the gaming esports program to help the school get into the 21st century, which is pretty wild. In terms of I've seen schools literally helping them put together online events, doing panels, to like throwing their concert all online. So it's I would say it's I think our infrastructure has a lot of gaps. That these are some of the janky ways that people are figuring out how to move forward into this year. So yeah, it's I think overall it's a net negative. I think there's a lot of schools with tens of 20s and 30, 40, 50, $100 million losses this year because of people not going back to school and those things. And yeah, I've had my other uh, co- staff faculty from different schools say their budgets, their salary was cut 30% when they said 10%. So things like that are like, at the end of the day, it's still a net negative. I think with obviously without COVID would be, I think we could learn the lesson of doing online panels without this like big like lesson. But yeah, I think our infrastructure is not there, and I think schools aren't really equipped to go online in
Yeah, and
general.
like a lot of the sports agencies that handle collegiate esports, they've lost like $1 billion or $2 billion. So it's I think like the main thing I would say about this is basically like forced diversification, which I think is a good thing. It just like it happens whenever you put too much value in one specific like vertical or whatever. Like even like this is a little off topic, but even like Hawaii, right? Like a lot of like the very tourism dependent like economies and states and stuff have had to like kind of diversify their industries and like what their economy depends on. I think that's just basically what's happening in esports, but it's not hurting us as much because we're already online, right? But yeah, I think like just from a more macro view, that's like I think what's happening in terms of trends.
Yeah, and I think that we are, as again, really fortunate to be able to be online. And so a lot of those things that are impacting a lot of the other industries, like, for example, I used to work in the live music industry, and I know that they have taken quite a large hit as we can no longer have like jam packed events of like 20,000 people in like
Yeah.
one arena space anymore because, well, we're in a pandemic. But with that being said, during the regular competitive season, especially for like collegiate such as like Collegiate Star League or with TESPA, I believe. I remember mostly with CSL, but being able to go to the LAN finals was a large part of the incentive for schools to form teams to compete. Since COVID is still currently ongoing, what do you think can be done to help make up for that kind of hype that the lack of in-person finals can bring?
Yeah, I think for our teams, we haven't been super affected by that. The only reason that we've been affected, like the only teams that have been really affected by COVID for us have been our Smash teams because, you know, instead of being able to like have 70 people in a room at a Smash Weekly every week, um, you know, they just can't do that anymore. That's just what they do. Um, you know, we haven't really been that incentivized in the past to compete just because of these big LAN events. Though I think it is something that's really cool for our teams these past couple of years. Like we've been able to, since we're so close to Canada, we've been able to go up to LAN ETS in Montreal every year for the past couple of years. And we've been able to bring some of our teams. It hasn't really been like an incentive for the team, but it's been something cool, I think, that the team has looked forward to. So I think it's not necessarily affecting the hype for our teams, but you know, I think it does take away some of like the cool things that we're able to do that now we just can't. Like we can still compete with the teams that we normally compete with at LAN ETS, but it's not quite the same as being there in that giant space with rows and rows and rows of computers and just like, you know, feeling like you're in the middle of a big esports competition. So I think that hasn't really affected us as much in terms of hype, but you know, that it has taken away some of the things that we love to do.
In terms of like live finals, I don't know, like a lot of like big collegiate competitions have never had like very big live finals, so I don't think it's gonna affect the viewership too much. Like the one that they held in Houston like last year, like pretty much didn't have any, but the viewership still stayed steady. So I don't know, but I think I've seen a bigger effect on like pro leagues, the finals there, you know. I don't know the stats on that. I think probably if anyone would know, it'd probably be Kevin. But I have heard from like some very esports centric startups like Juked that it has like hurt the amount of content, like competitive content that's available. But I wouldn't know the exact stats. But yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, I would say like that's pretty much it. I've seen like even without a live audience, like TESPA's finals stayed pretty steady last year. I think it was last year. It was the one in Houston with the ESPN finals or whatever. But yeah.
And so, Kevin, would you like to add a little bit more onto that? As Dylan mentioned, you probably know a little bit more about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the live events and stuff. I think there are some tentpole collegiate events that are really exciting. But overall, I think the amount of competitive events that were canceled, and so that's totally I mean that's and everyone's trying to figure out how they can navigate, right? And so, um, to me, I do believe the live event experience is what makes it collegiate really special. I think we send our finalists in Europe to a country in we send them to a country in Europe every single year for the University Esports Master Finals, and so that's like a big part of what makes that competition so awesome. It's not really the dollars. It's about traveling to a different country and meeting other players and building your network and all that stuff. And then if you win, you go to China to play in the ICC, which is the International Collegiate Competition, which is teams in Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe, North America, and Latam. So that is a pretty big part of our programming is to kind of show students different countries because I think in collegiate esports we all kind of live in our own bubble, but based on our school, based on our city, based on our state and country. So this is a good way for us to kind of take a stab at that, and that was one of our core cornerstone events. And so that that's a big loss to me if you talk about like why these events important. The viewership. I don't think college esports is really about viewership anyway. I don't. That's not
Mhm.
something we track or give a shit about too much. I think end of the day, it's about participation and number of players being able to get a lifelong, like memorable experience during their college. So it's not about metrics, KPIs, or those things. It's about giving these students something to fight for and like something to look forward to. So losing that is a pretty big L for us.
Yeah, and I do want to add on actually that I recently talked to a collegiate conference, and I was talking to one of the organizers, and they actually, while it hasn't affected many people, I think in terms of like their teams competing, they actually said that they had I think like 4 teams or so say that they were not going to compete this season specifically because they weren't doing the in-person finals. And so like I think overall I think hasn't really affected too much of like the teams competing, but I think like in some instances it actually has, and like specifically in that one, like they had 4 teams pull out just because of the fact that in-person finals weren't happening.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, no, exactly. I thought it was interesting as well.
It's interesting for sure, and I know that like with a lot of teams, not necessarily as like incentive, but it's like a big part of the motivation because that way you can get to experience like traveling and be able to meet all these people at like a LAN event that you wouldn't have the chance to meet otherwise. And so I think that unfortunately COVID has impacted that quite a lot, and it has impacted the experience that students would normally get that they can't right now from competing in places like that. And in the same line of questions, what do you think could be done better to make up for the absence of larger conventions such as like PAX or DreamHack, where there's a lot of opportunity there for students to travel to and to network and possibly even find their next, job opportunity or their dream career? What do you think could be done for the foreseeable future to kind of make up for that loss of like networking and opportunities?
Well, you guys have ICGN and there's like all these online panels and stuff, so you're gonna have like that creates and everyone has a lot more free time too. So to counterbalance, like I think you have enough people that are now just at home and working industry professionals. So now's the time. Now's the time to really like do your networking or I'm going to say build relationship because I really hate the word networking. I think it's been used at a very cheap way. Now it's time to build real relationships with people because everyone's just at home. So take advantage of that because people are idle and bored. I think there's more people that are bored and running out of games to play in general, and I think people would rather learn more, meet other people, and talk to other humans because I think right now everything's pretty isolating.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a lot of this, like with all of the ways that organizations have been popping up or doing different online events throughout all of this. I remember earlier this summer, which feels like forever ago, Uconnect did like the Collegiate Rising series online, and it was a really cool way to hear about a lot of really cool things in Collegiate during a time that all of these things couldn't happen in person. So shout out to Uconnect for doing that. That was a really fun event. And then I'll always talk about ICGN because I work at ICGN. But I think that something that I'll give shout out to Kai and the team for the mentorship program. Something I heard today from someone that I work with is the fact that they actually have a meeting with a game developer coming up, and that was a connection made between them and their mentor. And so their mentor actually connected them with this game industry professional, and now they have a meeting coming up. And that's all because they did that program this summer at ICGN, kept in contact and made a meaningful relationship, like Kevin was talking about, with their mentor. And throughout all of these months after that, that's still a relationship that they continue to build on, and that I think they've gained a lot out of. So I think like taking advantage of the opportunities that are coming online, like I'll talk about ICGN, like I said, with networking nights, with the panels, with the mentorship program that we did this summer. There are opportunities to make really good connections. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of like kind of connecting with these collegiate organizations, ICGN, Uconnect, Twitch Student, and figuring out what they're doing during this time and ways that you can be involved.
Yeah, so I think like I said before, I think things have become a lot more segmented too. Just because when you're at these conventions, a lot of these brand people, they're busy working like the actual booth and like talking to a bunch of different people. The pipeline is very saturated. But now that everything's online, they can split up their time so that like, hey, I'm gonna talk to some collegiate kids or have some collegiate programming for like this day, and the next day I'm gonna like focus on talking to industry people, right? So wait, okay, yeah, but yeah, I think like it's definitely become like a lot more accessible to kind of reach out to these industry people. So I think now is like a lot better of a time, because before, like, unless they went out to a TESPA panel or unless they had like an existing collegiate initiative, most of them like they don't, either like they have too much going on, they're just going to forget about you after the convention, or they just don't have like the bandwidth to help or remember you. So yeah, that's kind of I think the way that accessibility has changed.
Yeah, and I think that it is nice, and as Kevin mentioned earlier, it is really wonderful that we can now form, I guess, stronger bonds and relationships with people compared to, like Dylan mentioned, at an event where you can talk to so many people that by the end of the hour you might not know who you just talked to, because there's just crowds and you normally talk in circles instead of one-on-one. And I think that although we miss that kind of lack of in-person bond and connection that you would normally get from being at a large event, we have been able to thankfully make up for it by being able to talk to people as just themselves more one-on-one online. And so that's been really nice and amazing to see.
Yeah.
And yeah. And we're going to be moving into our Q&A section soon. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, preferably in the in our Discord. You can type !Discord in our Twitch chat to get there. And feel free to ask any questions that you have for our guests today. And alternatively, you can also ask them in Twitch chat, and I will try to catch them as they pop up. And so to kind of close us off before we move into our Q&A and get some more questions from our community, I kind of want to end this off on a positive note since we've been talking about like, how we miss people so much and how we're all so lonely these days. What kind of things have you seen that have been super positive, whether it be like esports or game dev, that you've been seeing in the past like 6 months that you would like to highlight and showcase that you're kind of proud of or that you see happen in our ecosystem?
I'm extremely proud of the team at ICGN, and I'll say that again. Like,
Hey,
uh,
nice.
yeah, shout out to ICGN. We haven't heard their title yet, but no, the team at ICGN has been absolutely fantastic to work with. We all came together based on a one-time event that was going to happen, and these people are extremely hardworking. Like, and we've put on, like I said, like the mentorship program that we did was phenomenal and really gave people like meaningful experiences this summer. We've done a series of panels throughout the summer, and we're kicking them back off now. I think that the team that I work with, like these are some of the most like incredible people that I've worked with. So honestly, that's something that has come out of this, and I am super proud of everyone there.
Yeah, I think one other thing that's like really good that I've seen is like before it used to be only peripheral brands and hardware brands that were investing in Collegiate. I think we've seen like a really big wave of esports teams um, helping out and like starting to invest in Collegiate as well. I've talked to like a lot of esports teams the last couple of months, and almost every one of them has some upcoming initiative or some like Collegiate like program being built up. So right now you mainly only see like probably two or three, but I think once people are more prepped, like right now is like the budget setting. Like month or 2 months. But after that, I think you're going to see a lot of teams coming in to kind of invest and build up their engagement there. So that's going to be interesting to see.
I'm super proud of the HBCU Esports League we put together. I think the team at Community with an X is a solid group of people for representation in the space. We have a lot of exciting things coming out in the fall that I think that through this quarantine, I was able to learn and sit down, shut up, and listen about some of these pain points that people in the scene has been facing for a very long time. Um, yeah, the HBCU Esports League and Community, you know, I think um they're super new. They're a startup, like they're a nonprofit that started in like late November, and they've just grown exponentially over the last year, like less than a year. And it's really exciting how fast they move, and that kind of energy is needed in collegiate as always. Um, and yeah, and then from there, I'm really excited about all the stuff that ICGN also does. I think uh Blue definitely took me by surprise, how you guys kind of came up like so quickly. And so getting a lot of this new blood, new energy in this space is refreshing, especially especially when now more people need to listen to young people in order to build their gaming esports program. I think I need more of you guys up in the space to help me convince people that this is not just playing Fortnite or video games or whatever. This is about what we have here. So keep it up. It is a struggle. It is uh when people tell me they came from college esports, I'm like, damn, you must have worked your ass off. So, um, it is a true statement that I think a lot of us can all relate to. So, as a former club president too, I really respect the hustle.
Thank you so much. And
Cool.
moving into our more Q&A section, our first question here, and don't forget you can ask your questions in either Twitch chat or in our Discord in panel questions. Um, And so our first question here is from Mr. Victor from Space Productions. Hi, Victor. Victor wants to ask to Kevin, what does Twitch's tournament platform bring that Battlefy and Smash GG won't to students?
So what I like about Versus is the seamless how you're able to just add people to the brackets. So Versus is a tournament platform that we launched about 2 weeks ago. Um, it's a place where you and your club could organize and manage your tournaments all on Twitch. So if you're already broadcasting your tournament, if you're playing in College League of Legends, if you're playing the College Carball, any of these or any Valorant tournaments, whatever you organize, it could even be Among Us tournaments. It's all there, and you can just add and invite people to participate. It's all on platform, so you don't have to send people off your stream or off the platform to go register and then find their username. And it's all already in your community. The other cool thing is they get to see who's live, whoever's participating in your tournament. You get to see who's live, and I think that's really cool because you get to build these kinds of stories, collect highlights and feeds. All those things are important. I believe I don't quote me on them, but there's ways to like see the actual bracket on the stream too. I think we built that off of like the inspiration from Twitch Rivals, so that product is like super exciting. And it is in closed beta, so break it. As college students, break the product. Tell us what you don't like about it. Hit me up on Discord anytime. Kind of helping out and supporting the product team there. So that's what I like about it is the seamlessness between and organizing. I think there's the less friction we can have to organizing events, then the better. So you can focus on actually doing and producing a good event. So yeah, that's why I like Versus. That's not me Twitch Kevin speaking. I was just thinking like, as organizing tournaments before, it was just like, man, I have to find out everyone's usernames and stuff.
Yeah, thinking about it more as organizer, events person Kevin than as Twitch Kevin. To answer the question that just popped up in Twitch chat, I believe Kevin, you did mention that VS is currently in closed beta.
It is in closed beta. I think Caillou announced it in the ICGN announcement Discord. So if you want access, you can just click that Google form link on there and I'll make sure you get your access. It's a way to, join the ICGN Discord if you haven't already. Yeah.
So if you want to find that link, it's just !Discord. And then if you go up in announcements, I believe it was on September 11th that we announced that we are going to be helping out with the closed beta for Versus. So thank you, Kevin, so much for giving us that opportunity. And I think that it's going to be a really cool platform that we're going to be able to use and have it help with future event organizers as well. Next question, I believe Dylan already briefly answered in Twitch chat, but I'll just ask it again so we can kind of chat about it a little more. From Lucas, who wants to ask, is it fair to say that the esports/collegiate space is looking to invest in new forms of revenue streams, especially in products or services that are geared for user engagement and audience expansion?
I think I answered the production question. I don't think I answered this. But yeah, I don't think in terms of revenue, I think like if you're just going into revenue, like it's going to take a little more investment and time to make it more revenue focused. So, I mean, I think it's less about like new revenue streams and more about like establishing like a sustainable business model. And then afterward, right now, like they're just looking to outfit stuff, like get sponsorships, and then like build up that brand acknowledgement and actually get people using it. Because just like building out the arena or building out the program isn't going to do much unless it has like a lot of good programming in it. You're doing like streaming workshops, stuff like that. A lot of schools are making the mistake of like building out a space, getting sponsorships, and then people don't go to it. That's kind of turned off a lot of brands especially brands that we've worked with. So we've gone through that extra effort of like, hey, like what kind of programming are you going to go through here? Like, are you going to have educational workshops? Are people going to be playing through here? Is the organization going to be hosting events and stuff? So like having that visibility over like what kinds of things can bring value in that space is just as important as just getting that space, right? And then Yeah, so I think the second part was like especially in products and services that are geared for user engagement and audience expansion. Yeah, that's pretty normal marketing stuff. It's just like they're obviously investing their company's products and resources to like reach more students and stuff like that. But I think that purely revenue focused thing is not as important right now as just like building those solid foundations. But I don't know. Maybe the rest of you guys have other opinions.
No, I think I pretty much agree with everything that you just said, and I also really like the point of, making sure that you're having programming in the esports space, because that's currently something that like my organization is working towards, like pitching for a new space and figuring out the outfitting for a space. But it's also something that we want to focus on as well, and that's something that we're discussing is what events are we going to put in the space, and that's something that we're bringing forward in the pitch to our school as well. Is okay, we plan on running these events, which is why we need this size of space. We want these sort of products because this is what we plan to do. This is the programming we plan to do with them. So I think, having a plan like that, I think is, like you said, it's a really important piece.
Yeah, it's almost like investing in like a startup, right? Like that those initial like that initial capital that you invest in like your esports space or your esports community, you're not going to see like a turnover like, oh, we made a profit this year because of this amount of investment. You're like you're investing for the long run, right? So like you're not going to see like the types of revenue that you would typically see until like maybe 2 or 3 years, you know. It's just building that foundation to build to like level up your community so that eventually it can grow. Like, you're eliminating the glass ceiling so that like in the next couple years you can see a kind of that audience and that reach being converted into revenue. But right now it's mainly about growing the community and stuff like that.
And I think collegiate esports, honestly, from what I've seen from like I think the generation of collegiate esports before me, and like what I'm trying to accomplish for like after me, it really is like that kind of planting the seed and kind of like building off what the people left for before you. Um, and so I think like that's something that I constantly think about is like, okay, is this going to be an easy transition from what I'm doing, and also like, am I leaving in a place where they can not only use what I'm doing but build off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like, I saw that from the people who were in the esports organization when I was first there, like during my first year, where they were really focused on building stuff so that we could take it and make it even better. Yeah, I mean, it really, collegiate esports is like building something now that's going to be really beneficial in like 2 to 3 years that you're going to see like that really big growth for.
Yeah, and it's something that I've talked a lot about with other collegiate leaders in terms of like that kind of community building is when you're working on it, you expect to see it bloom in like 2, 3, maybe even like 4 or 5 years, and you don't really expect immediate progress. So I think that you guys are definitely right when you say that it's important right now to kind of focus on building and maintaining that kind of community growth because we are lacking that sort of in-person thing that we would normally have right now. All right, I have a question that is anonymous. This is for Dylan, but feel free for if Alex and Kevin want to chime in. But how do you think that collegiate esports can be used as an engine right now, especially with the current political climate, to get students to be more politically active?
I think Kevin might be a better I think Kevin might be a better person for this question because I mainly deal with like brand sponsorships, so I don't really even know where to
So
go.
civic engagement.
Well, yeah, like political engagement. Oh, like I guess they're talking about Gamers Vote, but
Yeah, like the event that we run with like Gamers Vote.
yeah, I
things
think that
like
would be a better Kevin question because I haven't like run into any of that type of stuff, but
Yeah, I think right now, so with civic engagement, we were we started working with Gamer.vote earlier this year. Met the guys over there last year at DreamHack, and the goal was to use gaming as that connective fiber to get them to participate and be more active citizens. I think gaming in general, we use that as a shield to not participate in our society. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's all about. So with gamer.vote, the mission of that is to use that as a force for good, being gamers, and then making and representing your voice, right? So instead of using gaming as that shield of like, oh, I don't want to get involved in politics and those things, we want to start distilling that. So I think they've worked with a lot of our uh Twitch partners that have taken a stance and have shared their voices more and get them to speak about these issues. It's the same thing with like sports athletes using their voice and their medium to kind of talk about what matters to them. And I think we want to kind of use that same approach when it comes to gaming, where I think we've used gaming as that shield for apathy, when I think we should be really loud, and we are probably the loudest group out there. So that's kind of the goal for that, is to increase the participation amongst gamers in when it comes to voting. Second is civic engagement. So being and using your voice and helping others come up and having them represent themselves and having them getting placed into things. So I was part of different diversity initiatives in Twitch. So you've seen the HBCU Esports League, and I'm also helping. I'm working on other initiatives, empowering different types of communities, and so I think that's a cool thing that I'm blessed to be a part of, is to be able to work on projects and kind of help solve some of these gaps in the scene. Because um, I think I believe we can do better, and we need to do better in order for this scene to grow. I think one example is that we talked a lot about on my own stream is like, college esports is heavily PC related, right? We use and people don't see it, but PC is having a computer at home is a privilege, even the internet. So and we in college in esports, we're pretty elitist here in North America about PC master race and stuff. So I think that is unfair for people who do not have the ability to play in that circumstances. So in like the HBCU Esports League, we're focused heavily on console and other mediums for play. So even like things like that, where we have to start at the foundation of what creates that gap. And I think it's the technology. I think it's the internet access, but I also think it's worker placement. I think with the Black community, 80% of the Black community in Gen Z plays video games. It's a large amount, but they only have about a 2% representation in the workforce in the entire gaming esports workplace. So that's some of the things that we need to start over and do better for. Stuff like that. It's a long-winded answer. I hope I gave some good context around it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your insight, and I think that I agree that we do need kind of that more representation. And I think that although gamers have been this kind of like previously like secluded and like outliers or community, the majority of people nowadays I think do play some sort of video games, and so I think that it's a great way to kind of incentivize people to be a more active participant in the larger community. All right. We have another question from Sam. Hi, Sam. How can we work to improve online events focused on collegiate? We see events like PAX Online and IGAS struggling to kind of bridge that gap. What are some problems that you see and potential solutions that you can think of?
I think like one of the things that we found pretty successful that I wish more like online summits did was it sounds like pretty simple and like not that, I guess, substantial, but like they should definitely market it heavier, and they should I think like they should definitely create more graphics for the specific speaker panels, just so you can utilize the social reach of all the speakers, right? But yeah, like I think there's a couple summits that there was a couple summits like that I didn't see that do that kind of yeah, they didn't. I don't know. It just they didn't reach the amount of people that they could have. But I do think that like with student online events and stuff like that, it's forcing them, because like so much of the reach that they would typically get from live events is now completely dependent on social media. I think it's definitely like up the requirements of what you need to be posting on social, how you need to be like utilizing your Twitter reach and stuff like that. I've been a lot more hands-on about like social media requirements, like when we do sponsor student events. So yeah, I think that's mainly it. I think it's definitely going to up the game so that like when we're back from COVID, I think that threshold is going to be a lot higher in terms of like the quality of the social media accounts and like how you kind of leverage that to help brands get reach. But yeah, that's just some thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, like I think also like really if you're trying to get into the student space that you're not already into, I think really knowing your market and like really trying to understand like what people in college esports, like what are the struggles that they're facing in college esports, what are the things that like they want to hear about, who do they want to hear from? Because I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of brands that are in esports, and there's a lot of brands, like a lot of really cool people that work in esports, but not all of them can specifically talk about the collegiate scene. And I think someone like I'll give the example of like I think Kevin. I actually saw where you might have been one of the people. I saw someone that speak at a PAX East panel, and I think it's really cool to kind of have representation of brands. Like I want to see more people at these things that have been in the collegiate esports scene themselves. I think that's a really cool thing. Kevin was the president of a collegiate esports organization, so it's cool to be able to see not only is that someone who's from Twitch who's involved in collegiate now, but came from collegiate and kind of understands what you're going through. So I think a big thing again is just making sure that you're getting the right people to speak.
Yeah.
Because otherwise collegiate esports leaders are not going to be fully interested if the speakers aren't the ones that they want to hear from.
Yeah, the panel selection thing was definitely a big thing as well. Like just because somebody has like a ton of LinkedIn followers doesn't mean that they have like credibility within the collegiate scene. There's like a lot of people like I know like when we were selecting panelists for Collegiate Rising, like there's certain people in each region that a lot of the people in each region like look up to, like on the West Coast, a lot of people like look up to Sab, or they might look up to Angie or something like that. On the East Coast, Adam Bao and like Dan Lee, they're like people who have been in the space for a really long time, and like they'll go to these events just to see them again, even though they may have already met them or something like that, so like getting those like regional like celebrities or whatever, or people that are known within the community is really important for actually getting college students. Otherwise, like if you just get some like LinkedIn like quote unquote like collegiate esports company, like they may bring in some people in their own network, but it's not going to be like most of the like legitimate like collegiate esports like students and leaders are not going to know who these people are. And there's like a lot more, I guess, like collegiate esports companies that are popping up now that may or may not know what they're doing. So I think like definitely people need to vet a lot more like the speakers that they bring in. Because if you just bring in anybody like just to get as many speakers as possible, like people can tell you're not vetting people, people can tell like, hey, they're just accepting anyone, and I think that lowers the quality of the summits and panels. Like you want to have a little exclusivity, like, hey, we're just picking up like just the right people, rather than like, hey, let's get as many speakers with as much social reach as possible to like to get this summit going, but yeah. Kevin, I think it's your turn.
Oh, I have to answer this
Yeah.
too. Oh, I mean, just to make online events better, just part of like the whole vetting process, but also like the one like easy fix you can do is just like invite women to other panels outside of women in gaming panels. I think it's really troll that a lot of people don't understand this yet. They do more than just talk about women in gaming, so let's include them into these conversations. That's easy and it will immensely improve the value of your online event. I think that's really important. I think online events. I think having a Discord for your event is going to also be very beneficial to kind of have like panel Q&A and all that stuff. I think that's always helpful to have a way for people to follow up or having follow up conversations on. The Invent Global event actually used a pretty cool virtual event software. I think it's paid subscription thing,
Yeah.
but it was pretty cool. You had to see who was on, like who was speaking, who the attendees are, and like what you're interested about. So it made it easier to find people to talk to. I definitely met a lot of people from these events because I think it had like everyone's bios and all that stuff filled out, and they're interested in these topics. And then they also imported my calendar so people could book time with me. So I think that was a really cool software. So using, these technologies to help you make your event better too. So keep investigating different types of technologies. I just learned about OBS.Ninja. So like that was like a cool I might integrate that with my stream too now. So like I don't know. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
something.
think
Yeah, you can go.
okay. I think that yeah, I like Kevin mentioned, IGS was really cool with using. I think it's called swapcard.co.
Swapcar, they used something else before. Just look up like virtual event management something something. I don't know.
But
You'll
yeah.
a bunch will come up and they'll have their own features and
Mhm.
see. They'll probably give you a free trial and yeah.
Yeah. So I got to participate in IGS as well, and I thought that it was really cool how you could view the attendees, you could kind of view the different companies that were there as well as who was speaking, and also the ability to like book meeting times with people. I thought was really cool as well. And it would notify you, and you could choose which events you wanted to go to and whatnot. So I think that that kind of integration really helped with making the event more accessible and more easy for people to navigate since it was online. So, Alex, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna also just kind of like bring it back to like the whole like vetting people and kind of like really figuring out who your panels are. If you're someone who's looking to like who has not really been in the collegiate space, or you have and you're just unsure of who to invite for a panel, it doesn't hurt to ask collegiate leaders who they would like to hear from. There's realistically like collegiate leaders would love to know that their voices are being heard by the people that are putting on these type of events. So if you know a collegiate leader and you're looking to put on a collegiate esports event, reach out to them and be like, what are topics that you'd like to hear about? Who are people that you'd like to hear from? And then start there. And I mean, again, it never hurts to ask collegiate leaders actually like who they want to hear from and what they want to hear about.
I agree. It's like with a lot of things too, and something that back at UBC Sports we used with while talking to our administration is letting them know very clearly that our voices need to be heard as student organizations, and that's the best way that you can help us grow our communities that are already established here instead of trying to form something completely new in a lot of cases, or trying to kind of understand by observing instead of actually interacting with our communities and figuring out what our needs are instead of just assuming them. So I think that that's really important as well. Let's see. Actually, I have a question, or kind of a question for Kevin. Now that you mentioned the kind of having that we should stop inviting women to only women in gaming panels. That's something that we see kind of a lot in this industry is women as speakers to kind of fill a quota of like or like a check mark of okay,
Yeah, some
now we have like
density.
5 women.
Yeah.
It's like not very fair, and it's something that I think needs to change. I think that from the beginning until now, there have always been a lot of really talented and like accomplished women in the industry, such as like Sabrina, Sandra from TL, Ayan, hi Ayan, and
What?
like Lena, and I'm forgetting a lot of names here,
There's a bunch.
but
You can't name them
yeah.
all. There's a
You
ton.
I cannot name them all. I'm like
Yeah.
I just like I'm thinking about a list and the list is like so long. But I think that a lot of times a lot of people still don't understand, and so it's kind of that disappointing like diversity checkbox that I think that we really need to stop doing. And I guess if you had one piece of advice for a lot of organizations that are still kind of struggling to understand this idea that women are in this space and we've always been, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say invite them in the conception and design process. So invite them early so that they can tell you that you're not doing this wrong. I think that's probably the easiest. It's like, why would you need to guess when you can just invite them into the room and have them be part of that meetings as you're planning these things? If you're just talking about panels and such. And so that's probably the easiest way to just save yourself like like a terrible event, or like, and making it look bad and representing terribly for you and your org. I think that's probably the easiest. Just like, it's not hard uh to to just be like, take a step back, and be like, I don't know what I don't know, and I didn't l- I didn't grow up in these X and Y and Z conditions, but I think someone that came from X and Y and Z conditions, that came up from it, would have a better understanding of how to organize this. So knowing where you're like, just admit you don't know, and then invite people that have done it. So that will time and time again save you a lot from things. And so just involving them early in the making process and make them stakeholders.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, honest.
I think
Yeah,
when I say, we talk about diversity and inclusivity, and I also want to add equity. So equity means like adding them as stakeholders.
yeah, and just to add on to that, like, especially in collegiate, it's really not that hard to find, to like include in this. Like, I don't know, historically, like, so I've been in collegiate since like 2011, and even from the beginning, like the top collegiate like leader, I guess, like the top person that's seen was Carmen Lam, right, out of UBC. So like I don't know, like I think like while the gaming industry is like maybe not as equitable, um, like in collegiate, at least among the leadership, it's always, I think it's been a lot better, I guess, in terms of like the star players. So like even for like collegiate rising, I think like Carmen ended up like posting something about how diverse our panels are. Like I can promise you, like we did not go into that like trying to make the panels more equitable. I know that sounds bad, but like we basically just like picked the best people, and the best people just happened to like, it ended up being more, I guess, not equal. I don't know. Like it just ended up being more diverse just from like people's expertise. So that was like a cool thing to find out later, that like, hey, we had a pretty good ratio of like, but I think like there's a lot of like people in this, especially in collegiate esports, that know their shit. So just like pick the best people, and I think like you're not going to have a problem with it. You don't need to like the whole women in gaming panel has always been like, oh, we don't have enough women, so let's just like put them all, like let's stuff them all into one panel. But like you haven't, there's enough like Kitty Nguyen from HyperX, she leads the collegiate team there. Valerie at Tespa, there's like so many good women leaders that you don't really need to stuff them in a panel to make your overall summit diverse. You can just use what you have and it'll already be pretty diverse. So I don't know, that's just like my 2 cents to add on to that.
Alex?
Yeah, no, I honestly just agree with like literally every sentiment that was said so far. I am a firm believer, like Dylan said, in just having the most qualified people and the best people to speak on the panel, have them speak on that panel. And honestly, like really that's what you should be doing. And I think that by boxing people into something like a women in gaming panel and not allowing them to speak on their expertise, like you brought up a lot of really amazing women, and they should be able to speak on more than just being a woman in gaming, but in their expertise and in their field that they've worked so hard to get to. So I think that just including them in panels that align with their expertise it just makes sense. Like it makes sense to do that, because then you're getting the best quality panel.
I totally agree. And it's like, I feel like we're at a point in like esports, whether it be collegiate or industry, where you don't need to like grab like 5 women and like put them into like a box for you to check off for diversity anymore. There are so many people here, and so I feel like it kind of all just boils down to there's a lot of wonderful women in the scene. Stop doing women in gaming panels. They're not necessary and they don't add anything further to the conversation because we all already very much know what it's like to be a woman in gaming. Now we just have
That's
to
so
act on
true.
it by
Yeah.
changing. Like we already very much know what it's like to be a woman in gaming. So why don't event organizers and people who organize these panels now act on it so that we can make the change that we keep talking about wanting to see?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that that's something that we should be bringing up more and holding people accountable when they do holding people accountable, sorry, and calling people out when you do realize that like your organizer friend is like, oh, we need like we need a women in gaming panel. You go, no, we don't.
Mhm.
We need you to bring women into your other panels.
Mhm.
And yeah, so thank you guys so much for your insight on that. And it's really amazing to kind of see how the kind of culture has changed.
Yeah, just to add, like it's okay to do a women in gaming panel to talk about the pain points of being a woman in gaming. But if that's your only panel and that's the only place in your entire event where women voice is represented, then we have a problem. So I want to, you know, I think it's important to have a panel about what it's like just to talk about how we can design better programs or like being a woman in college esports. Like let's have those types of conversation, but when it's your like only panel and that's your only time women and voices are being represented, that's when I just want to raise my eyebrows just to like clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's like there are more things that women can talk about in esports than just,
Yeah.
our pain points or what it's like to be a woman in gaming. Because we've honestly talked about that topic so much,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
much over the past couple of
Twitter's all
years.
over that too. So you don't need to really
Mhm.
do panels. Just look on Twitter and see all the crazy
Exactly.
stuff. If you look at like Valorant and see what happened and when they added voice chat, like is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, to kind of bring us back to our original focus and to kind of end off the panel as we are kind of reaching our time here, what is one piece of advice you would like to give to students currently trying to do more for their collegiate scene despite COVID being very present in our lives right now?
I think for me, just take advantage of opportunities that are presented to you. Um, you know, just saying yes to a really cool opportunity, um, as long as you can handle that really cool opportunity. Saying yes to that is something that will get you really far, and you never know where that will take you. Um, so I think really just taking advantage to opportunities that are presented to you, I think is like a really big thing.
From my end, if you accept a brand sponsorship, make sure that you fulfill all the deliverables. Because if you make the brand chase you down for it, or if I have to chase you down for it, it's not a good look. It's just like not a good. Yeah, just and also like don't ask for less and do more, kind of over deliver on everything. It creates a good reputation for yourself and for your organization, so it'll make them more eager to sponsor you next time. And if you develop that, it also like helps with your job prospects. Like, hey, this girl always asks for like one mouse, but then she gives me like a million reach or something like that. Obviously I'm exaggerating, but like doing something like that is going to be good for your personal career as well, as someone who always like overdoes it. I see too many. I've seen like a couple organizers who have asked for a lot and weren't able to deliver, and you're basically just going to get yourself blacklisted. Like, I mean, I'm not going to blacklist you, but like, it's just not a good look. Anyway, that's just my main thing I want to put out there, I guess.
Advice, huh? I don't know. I feel like I say the same advice, but it's just keep on. No, I'm kidding. Just like continue to explore, guys. Like I think it's take breaks, do a lot of mental reset here and there. This year is very tough, and so if you feel like you're bummed out because opportunities aren't here yet, I think it's okay. You have your health, and just keep chipping away. Life's a marathon, not a race. You've heard that 1,000 times, but right now it really means, really means like life is really a marathon, and you'll get through it. Um, and yeah, just there's a lot of good games out there. And, use that time to start enjoying games while we're kind of all quarantined and bored. So play that game that's just sitting in your Steam library for like X amount of months. I know there's a few there. So just sit down and enjoy gaming instead of, we work a lot in this space. So I don't think a lot of us take the time to actually enjoy games enough. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the advice I have is just take it day by day. I know, I am, so it's chill.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, Kevin is spitting facts. All facts, no printer. And I agree that like a lot of the time, especially in collegiate, because it's such like high amounts of work but very low reward in the short kind of term, that burnout is something that happens a lot. And so life may also be a marathon, but life also isn't a race at all. And I think the most important thing that everybody can do this year is to just stay healthy, grimly put, stay alive. Um, in these, and in this cliche term, these anxious and unprecedented times. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I really enjoyed having you guys here to talk about, what's upcoming for the collegiate community and what we've been up to for the past 6 months. So thank you all so much for being here. It was amazing having you guys and hearing your insight.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yep. All
Cool.
right. Have a
Thanks,
good one.
guys.
Thank you
All right,
guys so
bye.
much. Have a good night.
Wait, can I do another shout out? Is it over?
Mhm.
Okay. So we have this. So for fun content. So our dear friend Rudy is trying, after 7 years, he's still trying to climb to platinum in League of Legends. There's $2,000 on the line for him to hit platinum. So make sure to tune into his stream. It's RUTZO. It's fun watching him play. So definitely, I have $500 on the line for him to hit platinum. So I want to make this one spiel to go to twitch.tv/Russo. All right, that's all good. Thank you so much, guys.
Wait, if we're doing shout outs, I want to shout out HyperX and Cloud9. That's it. Cool.
In the line of shout outs, I want to shout out Owen, who has been our producer for today's panel, who has been doing an amazing job despite all of the problems that we had and technical difficulties starting out. It's been amazing, and he is an amazing person. And I just wanted to give him a shout out for helping us make this all happen.
Can I give a shout out? Do I give a shout out too?
ICGN.
I'm going to part of ICGN because we got team competition now. I'm going to shout out the external branch at ICGN. I love my.
You're the external branch.
No, my team, not just me. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without my team. Genuinely, like my PR team, I love them. My social media team, amazing. They're amazing people. Also, shout out to Nico and Cougar and this amazing chair. So yeah, but yeah.
Chill.
I actually bought this chair. This wasn't like a. This wasn't.
Okay.
This was. It's just comfy, and I literally sit here my entire life now that I do everything online. So I'll give a shout out to a comfy chair.
All right, cool.
All right. And I also wanted to give. I also just wanted to give a special shout out as well to everybody in the chat for tuning in. And thank you guys all so much for being here today. It was really nice getting to interact with all of you guys and seeing all of your really fun and insightful questions. Sam, don't ever ask that question again. And yeah, it was a really wonderful time. I had a lot of fun. You guys are all so wholesome. And so thank you guys so much for being here and making this panel so exciting. I hope that you all have a wonderful night, and please stay safe and healthy. And remember that your happiness and your health is what comes first and foremost. So thank you all so much for being here. I had a lot of fun as well, and we are going to sign off now. So have a good night and take care.